Good morning, everyone. Scott Earhart here with Insurance Agency Marketing Services. First and foremost, thank you so very much for taking the time to join us this morning after hopefully everybody had a nice, long, and refreshing holiday weekend. Today, I think we're gonna get into some pretty interesting topics, and I know that we are going to look at one of the absolute income leaders in the FIA market space right now in Athene and their Ascent series in order to help us take a take a dive into that and really get behind the curtain on it. We have our RVP from Athene, Mr. Mac Campbell. Mac, can you hear us?
I can, Scott. Thank you again for having me today.
Hey, thank you. I know it's a very, very busy time at Athene, so we appreciate you carving out some time for us. Before I hand it over to Mac, we'll do a couple introductory slides, and then and before that, we'll do just some brief housekeeping items. First housekeeping item is our phone number. It's on the top left-hand corner of your screen. The number here to Insurance Agency Marketing Services is 800-255-5055. If there is anything we can be doing to help you in the life or fixed annuity markets, please do not hesitate to give a call. We'd absolutely love the opportunity to be earning your business. Second, our polling questions. Throughout the presentation today, I'll launch 2 to 3 polling questions. They are just yes or no questions. If you would please take the time to participate in those, we certainly would appreciate that. And the final housekeeping item are questions. We're going to throw a lot of information at you in a relatively short amount of time, so I'm sure there will be questions. Mac himself and actually the entire culture at Athene is a very transparent culture, so he will do the best he can to answer any and every question that you have. Please feel free to type those in. If there are any questions for me about IAMS or anything we can be doing to help you, please type those in as well. I'll do the best I can to get them answered while we are live and in session. That being said, let's get into some introductory slides here. For those of you who are new to Insurance Agency Marketing Services, or if this is your first introduction to us here at IAMS, new producer bonus designed to help you get off to a fast start and as a thank you for your business. 3 different levels that you can cash in at. It is based on production within your first 180 days of being licensed with IAMS. And as you can see at each level, we do have some great personal rewards, business building tools as well. A lot of great stuff for you to choose from there. If you'd like to learn more about the program or have a more detailed conversation, please let me know. Top Producers Escape, this is coming up next February. We do have a lot of time left to qualify. Be the end of the year for qualification. We will be going to the Boulders Resort and Spa in Arizona. Both Mac and myself have been to this resort, and I can tell you this is, it's tough for me to say my favorite place in America, but it's darn close. This resort is so unique and so luxurious. If you are a golfer, there are 2 golf courses on property that are consistently voted in the top 5 in the entire state of Arizona. Pools, tennis, great spa. So just a beautiful, beautiful place and a great reward for our producers. Only 2 million trip credits to qualify. At the bottom of your screen, you can see a little breakdown there of how premium qualifies, but rest assured that any dollar that you run through IAMS does count towards your qualification. So looking forward to having this be our largest Top Producers Escape of all time. And I'm sure we've got some individuals on here that have joined us for a Top Producers Escape in the past. I know they can attest that Steve and Charles, our ownership group, spare no expense when it comes to this. So if you'd like to learn more about how it works, or if you'd like to know where you stand in qualification, just let me know. We can get that information for you. Creative services, want everyone to be aware that IAMS does have an in-house creative team for our licensed producers. Everything from basic brand building all the way up to television creation and deployment can be done through IAMS Creative. Josh and his team do a great, great job with that. They are here in office in Omaha with us. So if there's ever anything we can be doing to help you from a branding or a marketing standpoint, please give us a call, speak to Josh, speak to anyone on his team. They'd love to help you with your branding and your marketing. One of the things that we do offer through IAMS Creative is a personalized newsletter service. If you're not sending a newsletter to your current clients and prospective clients, I think you're kind of missing the boat. It's a great way for you to send unique information to them that's relevant in today's world. So the next time that they need a product or a service that you provide, they don't think to call anyone other than you. If you'd like to learn more about how the newsletter service works or get a trial of it, give Josh a call. We can certainly get that set up for you. Life and Annuity Academy. As we talk about the Life and Annuity Academy, I'm going to launch our first poll of the day, and what I'm going to ask you here is if you'd be interested in joining us for one of our all expense paid life and annuity academies. That being said, if you click yes, it's not a commitment on your end to attend. What it is just saying you'd like more information. You'll get an automated email. It will also put you onto our interested parties list, so when we do open up registrations and applications for our September Academy, you will be the first group notified. What we do in our life and annuity academies, or we try to schedule them Wednesday to Friday. We'll fly you in on a Wednesday. We'll do an evening session that day. Thursday will be a full day, breakfast to dinner. A lot of information there. And Friday will be a half day, feed you lunch, and hopefully have you back on a plane and home in time for dinner. What we do in our life and annuity academies is we'll bring in internal staff, myself, Mark Raymakers, who's our life director, and normally Amber Williams or someone from our new business team, a representative from our creative team. Charles R. Hiring will be there from IAMS Wealth Management to talk about our RIA services. And then, of course, you'll meet our executive and ownership team in Steve Murray and Charles Hiring. We'll go through everything that we do here at IAMS to not just give you a product, but to give you conceptual ideas for sales, give you back office support, give you better understanding of product when we are looking to define which product will or will not work in given scenarios and how that business flow works. Obviously, Steve and Charles will be there to give you a little history of IAMS. And it's nice to know that there's still companies out there where the ownership is directly involved in the day-to-day operations. You know, Steve and Charles really do run us on a day-to-day basis, and they want to get to know you. They want to understand your business and what we can be doing to better tailor your experience here at IAMS. We will bring in, for the one in September, a couple of different carriers. Will be at our office here in Omaha, and the carriers will chat with you about not just their products, but where their products fit in the market and the sales ideas that they can bring to the table to help you better position that product. What I think is the most valuable is we will bring in at least 4 of our sales coaches from throughout the country. And in order to be a sales coach with insurance agency marketing services, not only do you have to be able to talk the talk, but you must be able to walk the walk as well. And what I mean there is all of our sales coaches are multiple top producer escape qualifiers. They are the upper 1% of our industry as far as earnings and commissions go. And what you'll learn from them is exactly what they do that makes them top producers and give you the ability to take that home with you and implement it in your own practice. That being said, I do have Mac on the line, so I'd be amiss if I didn't offer Mac a little bit of a platform here. Athene's been a great partner for us with the Life and Annuity Academies. We just completed one in May or earlier this month at their office. So, Mac, anything you'd like to add about Life and Annuity Academies?
Sure, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words on that topic. You know, as you've said, we've partnered with you guys on several of them over the years, and you know, the one coming up here in September. You know, if you're on the phone here with us, you've likely maybe attended some sort of workshop. This is really not like any workshop you've been to. It's fully immersive, and you know, to Scott's point. Well, before that, from my perspective, I love getting to meet and talk to the producers that hopefully will ultimately be positioning our portfolio. And you know, I think the feeling is mutual. You get the chance to ask me questions face to face. Any other executives we have in attendance, as Scott said, we're very transparent. But from your perspective, I think the real value, along with hearing from the sales coaches that Scott outlined, those top producers, you do a lot of hearing and listening to and speaking really to one another. There's a lot of content that's delivered, but there's a lot of downtime where you're going to have a bite to eat or a drink or a cup of coffee or a breakfast, and you get to know one another. And the beautiful thing about this business, and I've been in it for over 20 years now, and all over the country, is that there's not just one way to do it successfully. You may do it one way in one state versus another in another state, different practices, and that's the beauty of the business. And I think you see a lot of that collaboration at one of these meetings. It's not competitive, it's more collaborative. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. So if you've not attended IAMS Academy, I'd recommend that you do so. So Scott, again, thanks for the opportunity to talk on that subject.
Hey, thank you, Mac. Thank you thank you to you and to Athene for your partnership over the years with these. And I know you guys are going to be a part of the one in September as well. We're looking forward to it. That being said, I know we spent some time here, so I'm going to move on and close down this poll. Thank you to everyone that did participate there. Moving on, paperless contracting. I do want to make sure everyone's aware we are on the Efficient Forms platform with over 90% of the carriers we offer. Save time, be more efficient. That subheadline there, that is the name of the game with this. We all know the pain of filling out individual licensing agreements. We can take all that pain away with the Efficient Forms platform. Chris Mount, our licensing director, is an absolute guru with it. If you have any questions about the paperless contracting system, just give her a call here in our office. She'd love to chat with you and get you onto that platform. Our website, IAMSinc.com, a lot of great content out there for you with quote engines, sales tools, staff descriptions, phone numbers, links to carriers, a lot of great stuff out there for you, product grids. So if you haven't been to IAMSinc.com and registered, please go to IAMSinc.com, register with us. We'd love the opportunity to show you what we can do via the web portal. IAMS Wealth Management. I'm going to talk about this just real briefly, but as I do, I'm going to launch our second poll, and we're asking you if you would like more information about our RIA, IAMS Wealth Management. As I know it's going to come up later in the discussion here, we are going to have a conversation about the Department of Labor ruling. One of the easiest ways to guarantee that you will be able to continue to work with qualified funds and earn dollars on qualified funds in the manner you're accustomed to is to have a fiduciary designation like the 65. We designed IAMS Wealth Management not because of the DOL, but certainly a byproduct of our design is that it is a financial institution. It will be able to sign the BIC if it comes to that for its advisors. Why we designed IAMS Wealth is it's kind of the natural progression of an FMO and to get into more of a managed money platform. It'll help you to increase your revenue through fees, and we did design it to be very, very insurance friendly. The IMO is the core of our business here. IAMS Wealth is definitely an area where we want to grow. So it's kind of a nice pairing there to help you increase revenue. It will help you retain more clients and increase your persistency ratio. If you are, a advisor that has referred wealth management out in the past or just hasn't dealt with it, this will give you the ability to work with more of your client's assets, have more of a relationship with your client, and retain that client longer. And subsequently, as I mentioned, it'll help you to strengthen your relationships with your clients. So Charles R. Hiring is the head of our RIA. Great, smart young man that would certainly love the ability to be working with you if you have your 65 or if you're working towards your 65 or even just want to chat about possibly working to your 65. We've got great outlet for study guides and training to take that test and a lot of experience with test taking here. So that being said, we're going to move on from the IAMS Wealth question. If you haven't taken the time to click yes or no in the polling question, please do so. We'd certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with you there or to know what your interests are. So thank you for everyone that participated there. We do appreciate that. Retirement Analyzer. We put this slide back into our introductory slides. This is a direct recourse of the Department of Labor ruling. The retirement analyzer and what the retirement analyzer is a holistic analysis of a client's financial portfolio, exactly how long their dollars will last in their current status, and you can very easily show clients how much longer their money will last in their retirement years if they take a recommendation from you for a product or a service that you provide. It's a great way to show your work, how you landed on the recommendation you made, and a good thing to keep in your files moving forward, whether we are operating with qualified funds or non-qualified funds. Marcus Solar in our office is the point man for Retirement Analyzer. We do have a free trial out there if you'd like to take a look at it. We also have some webinars that kind of give a great overview that we partner with Thomas Gold Solutions, the proprietor of Retirement Analyzer for. So that being said, if you'd like to learn more about Retirement Analyzer, and I think you should, give Marcus in our office a call. I'd love to chat with you about that. My last slide before I hand it over to Mac is all about easy money now. I love this slide because all I'm going to talk about is putting money back in your pocket. Right-hand side of the screen, marketing reimbursement, rough numbers here. Every $100,000 in indexed annuity premium you place with IAMS, we'll put $200 into your marketing reimbursement account. We certainly will grow those dollars as you write business. We don't cap it. We don't put a lot of restrictions on vendors that you can use. Basically, if it's a business building expense, we are going to allow it to run through marketing reimbursement, and it's a great way for us to partner with you in growing your business. So if you'd like to learn more about Retirement Analyzer and how that works, or not Retirement Analyzer, I'm sorry, marketing reimbursement and how that works, please let me know. We can certainly get your account calculated or get you out information, more detailed information on how it works. Left-hand side, referred producer program. Our business on the wholesale side of the industry, really similar to yours out there in the field, in that one of the best leads we could ever obtain is a referral from one of our valued clients, or you, the valued producer. So we want to make it very much worth your while to refer individuals to us that you think might be able to grow their practices through working with IAMS. We're going to give you a $50 check just as a thank you when you refer a producer over to us and they pick up any license with IAMS. Where the real money comes in is there's going to be a 20 basis point override paid to you as your referral continues to write business. We do cut those checks at least quarterly. Steve and Charles sign checks for thousands and thousands of dollars at a time. It can be very, very lucrative. That being said, if there is someone you think could benefit from doing business with IAMS, feel free to type their name and any contact information you have into the questions box. I'll do the best I can to get them referred over to IAMS and get you on your way to earning some referred producer dollars. That being said, I'm going to hand control over to Mac now, and we'll get into the meat and potatoes of today's presentation.
Great. Thanks, Scott. If you would, just let me know if you can hear me okay, and then see that first slide. That'd be great.
I can hear you great, and we can see the slide.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Scott, for the great introduction. A lot of really good information that you shared there. And again, please take advantage of the academies and all the great programs that IAMS has to offer today. So we're going to spend about the next, call it 20 to 30 minutes, specifically hitting on one piece of the portfolio. And I showed this slide here to kind of give you the sense of what we try to accomplish at Athene in terms of the products that we offer to you, to offer to your prospects and clients. We like to think we're sort of the one-stop shop for your fixed annuity needs. You know, it's the only thing we do. We think we're really good at it in terms of pricing, competitive products. We have products that address really the four major needs that I think retirees and pre-retirees encounter. One is income, one is accumulation. We've got protection products, and then of course legacy. And for the purposes of this call, we're going to drill down into the income space. This is really, and has been far and away the most popular space in the indexed annuity marketplace for, gosh, the last 10 to 12 years now. And even today, there's a ton of innovation occurring, a lot of different new strategies and designs to really help customers lock in some great value, particularly as it relates to their income they'll be receiving at some point. So we're going to spend some time talking about the different ways that they can access the money as part of their retirement. And really, the name of the product and the portfolio and the rider we'll be discussing is the Ascent Pro with its Ascent Income Rider. And one thing I just want to mention right off the bat, and that is this notion of the word rider. When it's said, when I hear that, to me it implies that the rider is potentially optional. In this product, it's not. So this is strictly an income play. If you have a client looking for accumulation, that's great. We have other products for that individual. But for income needs, this is the play that you want to look for at Athene. And again, it's a mandatory rider, I guess you should say. There is a choice of riders, which we'll see. They have to choose one of them. Can't have both. But again, for income solutions, this is the way you want to look. We think that you can provide income really for every client or prospect you're talking with. And this product, as you'll see in a few moments, has a couple of different ways to provide income. The first and I think most simplest way to do that is via the guaranteed roll-up. That's sort of your pension benefit, which we'll talk about in a few moments. This product also offers a rider, again, that they can choose either the guaranteed or this one here that uses indexing to further enhance the income they're receiving. And it's a stacked roll-up or a participating income rider, essentially the same thing, just said a different way. And then once they're ready to actually take the income, so the first bullet there talks about rolling up and earning the income. The second bullet talks about actually receiving it. And there's multiple ways to do that. They can get a level payout that's predictable every year. They can get a payout based on some inflation protection, as well as what's new to us, earnings indexed income, which again uses the indexed engine to further drive increases even when they're taking the money. And then there's a few more enhanced features, a couple that you've come to know from the old Aviva and then again Athene as we are now, which we'll discuss at the end. And I will show you, we'll talk a little bit about the indexes, one in particular that I really like, and then I'll show you a couple of client-approved flyers that I think do a great job starting the income story when you're at that first meeting. So again, we think we have one of the most versatile built-in income riders in the marketplace today. So let's get right into it. And for the purposes of this call, we're going to talk predominantly about the Ascent Pro bonus product. That's where the lion's share of our sales occur. And I think as I talk about it, you'll see why. We'll start first with option one. Again, this is the choice. So this is done at issue. You talk to a customer about needing income at some point down the road, whether it's immediately or 5 or 10 or 20 years down the road. Now it's just a matter of, well, which one do they choose? And it really depends on each client, I think, and their risk tolerance and ultimately perhaps how old they are. So option one is that guaranteed one that I mentioned, that pension type benefit. And quite simply, it rolls up at 10% simple interest for the first 10 years of the contract. And then for the second 10 years, it actually still does roll up, giving it a full 20 years of roll up, but it only does it for 5% simple at that second decade. Now, in addition to rolling up at 10 and 5, right out of the gate, there is a 10% income bonus. So if the client gives you $100,000, we're going to take that 100, make it 110 for income purposes immediately, and then roll up that simple interest from there. So it really does a great job of enhancing early income for people. And I think for people that might be a little older, or perhaps that are looking for income in, say, the first 4 to 5 years, to me, choosing a guaranteed income rider is probably the way to go. I do love the opportunity that exists in the next rider we'll discuss, but if you're talking about a short time frame or a short window of opportunity there for a client before they need income, don't take any chances, any more than you have to anyway. I would just go with a guaranteed rider and keep things simple. So that's option one. Now, alternatively, if you have someone that might be a little younger, or perhaps if they're not younger, but maybe they just have more time ahead of them before they need to take income, option two, I think, is a fantastic alternative. And that, again, uses the indexed engine to drive and enhance the income in the deferral period. Now, there still is a very solid guarantee associated with this one. And instead of the 10 and 5 that I discussed, it's 8% for the first 10 years, and 4% for that second 10 years. And the income bonus that's applied at issue, if you choose option 2, instead of 10, it's only 5. So that 100,000 turns into 105, and then that guarantee of 8 rolls up from there for the first 10, and then again drops to 4 in the second 10 years. But I think the real reason for choosing this rider, this option 2, is that next figure you see there, that 200% stacking percentage. So effectively what we do is in that first year, let's use that as an example, we're going to roll it up at 8% simple. So if the market does nothing and they earn no growth in that year, they're going to get 8% worst case added to their income account value. Now let's say they earn 3%. So we'll be conservative. They earn 3% in the index that year. We're going to take the 8%, apply that. Then we'll take what they've earned, that 3%, and we're going to double it via that 200% participation rate there. So now that 3 is 6, and we stack the 6% number on top of the 8, which gives them in that year a 14% roll up for income. Now that's, again, I'll say that again, 14% roll up in that year, and that's just based off a conservative 3% return. So I think you can see if you've got a customer with more time in front of them, and you believe the index of the market does what it typically does over time, and that usually is up more than it's down, you only need a couple good years to really, really enhance the client's income during their deferral phase here. Again, not for everybody. There's more to this story, of course. It's not as simple as option 1, but the beautiful thing, again, for you is that you have choices to offer your client. And ultimately, I think that's what customers want. They want choices. So here's just a quick line graph as to what I just said. And this is option 1, basically showing that we put $100,000 in, starts off at 110, and then continues to linearly roll up 8% a year like that. And you can see after 10 years, we've effectively taken their 100 and doubled it to 210, a little more, in fact, for income purposes. And of course, that would, if you apply that to the payout percentage that we have at age 70 in this particular situation, that would yield them each year just over $10,700 guaranteed for as long as they live. And that's a level payout. Now let's take a look at option 2. Same kind of charts, only we've got a couple of different lines we have to discuss, right? So the orange line you see there that's sort of your Armageddon scenario. That's if the market does 0 for 10 straight years, the client's still earning that 8% each year, as we talked about. And then again, this goes 10 years, but if you went a second 10 years, it would go 4% thereafter. The 3 blue lines you see above that represent what the index has done over the last 10 years. Now, we did a couple things. We cherry-picked the best years, the worst years, and then we took the average to kind of show you the range of the possibilities here, had this been enforced for the last 10 years. So if we cherry-picked, or I guess not, would it be cherry-picking, we hand-selected the 10 worst years in the last 20, and even in those 10 worst years, it still would have yielded an annual income for the client of $13,594. So a heck of a lot better, even still, than their guarantee of 10.2. The best it did was 15.6, and again, on average, it would have returned an index value that would have provided them $14,500 in income. So that's substantially more than potentially that level benefit that we talked about, that option 1 benefit. But again, not for everybody. There are some more moving parts here, but if you have an individual that has, I'd say, 5 to 6 years or more of time, or if they're a little younger, I think this is really the index, or this is really the income option to select for them. Now, at the end of the call, I'll show you one of the 2 pieces that I talked about mentioning. The client approved pieces actually discusses why a customer would choose option 2 versus option 1, and perhaps when they would do that. Again, just to help get the conversation started, because this is not a very intuitive conversation for most people to have, but once they see the value, I think it really is powerful. So up until this point, we've discussed growing the funds for income. We've been in deferral. Now, at some point, your client's going to want to trigger that income. That's the whole point from this product, after all. And when they do, that's the next time that they have to make a choice. So the first choice is, what option do I want for deferral, guaranteed or stacked? They've made that choice, and regardless of what choice they made, now they're taking income. They have to decide how they want to take it. Do they want a level income that's predictable in the same amount every year? Do they want it based on some sort of inflation hedge? In this case, we base it off the CPI Urban Index, and it grows up to 10% each year potentially. Or do they want to use the indexed that's been maybe driving the growth for them if they chose option 2 to help fuel future increases? Now, I'm going to just pause for a moment before I get to the next slide and just share an opinion, if I may, get on my soapbox a little bit. I am a huge believer in choosing income that has some sort of inflation hedge to it. I believe that everything in life runs in cycles. I think the stock market does. I think unemployment does. I think interest rates do. And I think inflation does. And if you were to look at the inflation rate over the last, call it 2 decades, it has been trending lower than the 100-year average the entire time. The 100-year average is roughly 3.25. We've been around 2 or so for the last 2 decades. So to me, if the pendulum is all the way on that one side for the last 20 years, eventually it's got to start swinging to the other side. Now, I'm not suggesting we're going to be in some hyperinflationary environment anytime soon, but over 20 years, if we've got someone who's 65 or 70 taking income, they're going to live till they're 85, 90 or more. And I think it's important that the $10,000 a year they're getting today feels that way 15 years from now. And I don't think the level income would do that. Now, again, if you have some sort of inflation plan outside of this product, that's great. But if you don't, make sure you're having that conversation with their client, because you want to make sure that their cost of living or their paycheck, if you will, feels like it did when they got it that first time. So with that said, I'll step off the soapbox and get into how the earnings indexed one works specifically. I think that's one of my favorite options there. So again, we're going to leverage the power, as I mentioned, of that indexed engine and continue to use potential increases to fuel increases in their annual income as they go forward. So effectively, if they earn 3% or 4% in a given year, we're going to take that 3 or 4% and we're going to add it to next year's payment, 3 or 4% more. And then that continues to be their new low point. And each year they have an increase in the index. We're going to apply that to next year's payment. So here's just an example of using some hypothetical returns. Now I'm comparing option, or rather the level payment option with the earnings indexed. Now you can see that third column will pay out to the client, if they chose the level payment, roughly $9,600 a year forever. You'll notice that the earnings indexed pays lower initially. There's about a 65 basis point haircut, and that makes sense. I mean, we're going to take a little off the value in the front end to potentially provide a lot more down the road. So you can see that over the first 5 or 6 years, we've actually already caught up on a non-guaranteed basis. So we're about $9,800 using the earnings indexed. And then look at 25 years down the road, roughly $9,600 on level. And again, I can guarantee you that $9,600 doesn't feel like it did back here in year one. But look where we are on the earnings indexed, almost $17,000, effectively almost doubling what they would have gotten on a level basis. And over the course of their income period, the level basis over that time frame pays them $231,000. If they did the non-earnings indexed version, it would be over $311,000. So a lot more income available simply by using the engine that has been driving the growth since they bought the thing. So again, I think a great conversation to have with someone who is concerned about inflation down the road, or at least thinking about it. It makes sense to at least mention this to them. And again, I'll show you that piece towards the end there to help get that conversation started more easily with your customer. So we'll go through some enhanced features here. The minimum interest credit is really just sort of your sleep at night feature. It doesn't cost anything extra. Essentially, we have a 10-year annuity here. We're going to make sure the client gets at least 1% a year while they're in the contract. So if they give you 100, they're going to walk with the 110. I doubt it'll ever come to that, but it's nice to know it's there. The next big one here that I think is even more applicable than the bailout feature, I guess 10% free each year. But we do have a income doubler for confinement, which we've had for the last 10 years on our income products. Essentially, if the contract has been enforced for at least 1 year, and the annuitant, of course, can't be confined at issue, and if they've been in the facility for 6 months in the last 250 days, we will double their income payment. Doesn't matter which option they're choosing, for up to 5 years or when that cash value hits 0. There's no extra cost for this. There's no underwriting for this. And I think this is important because when because when someone goes into a facility, that's when they need more income, and that's when this product will work to help provide more income, in this case, twice as much. Now, this is truly a confinement feature. This does not account home health care. It's not rehab. It's not assisted living. It's truly a skilled nursing facility. So I want to be clear on that with everybody. Here's your state approval map for the bonus product. If you're in one of those states that are typically more difficult for annuities, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Texas, to name a couple, call the folks at IAMS. There is a version available, but it just works a little differently, and they can step you through how it is different. We'll talk a little bit about the indexes that we have and focus on one in particular, and then we'll get to those client pieces that I promised to tell you about. You can see we've got a full menu of options for your customers to choose. We've got a fixed account. I think that's important if they're going to take money out of the contract. And a full menu of index choices as well. Everything from your traditional annual point-to-point with a cap, your monthly cap. We have both 1 and 2 year point-to-point strategies without a cap. And I think those are where I think the real value is earned for clients. So in particular, we're going to talk about really one of our new ones, and that's the BNP Paribas Diversified 5 Index. I think in this day and age, the rates applied to that contract are very good. You'll see that in a few moments as well. And I love the diversity it brings to the table. So the reason we chose a strategy like BNP, for instance, we look at really 3 things when it comes to choosing an investment bank as a partner to develop an index with us, or if we do it ourselves. The first is it's got to have a reputable brand. That recognition, I think, is important. I mean, right now the French Open is happening, and if you're familiar with tennis at all or that tournament, BNP has sponsored that thing for the last like 15 or 20 years. So they're a worldwide brand. Actually, the 3rd largest investment bank by assets. It has to have an innovative design, and that design's got to complement what we already have. We don't want to develop a strategy or partner with someone to help us develop a strategy that all it does is mimic something that we already have. We want to make sure that we can provide complementary designs to our customers. And then most importantly, it's got to have what we like to call net customer value. It's great and easy to pick an index that looks and simulates returns over the last 10 to 20 years because you have the benefit of hindsight, right? But it's more difficult to pick an index that's supposed to work moving forward, as well as has a good track record. So we choose an index not for what it's done, but for what it will do to clients. Now, this strategy in particular, there are index strategies out there that use the S&P, some use the Dow, some use different types of indices. This uses actually 3 different asset classes: equities, bonds, and commodities. It uses 3 different economies: the United States, Europe, and Japan. And on a daily basis, it shifts between all those different asset classes and economies to find the optimal performance for the client. Now, they don't see this on a statement. Frankly, this doesn't even happen at Athene. This happens at the offices of BNP. But you can see that over time, having all that diversity and the ability to daily rebalance provides a lot of really low risk volatility and a lot of stability in the strategy. And it gives our pricing people the ability, because it is so low in terms of volatility, allows us to provide it to clients with much higher rates. So you can see that all these different asset classes, how they've performed in the top there, different ways in different market environments. You can see in 2008 in the middle there, most everything was down except for commodities. Gold was up. People were flooding precious metals because those are looked at as more stable at that point. You can see in 2008 this thing was actually up slightly. I'm not telling you that's going to happen every year, but it's nice to know that you have the ability to shift and move and pivot from one asset class to the next as things in the marketplace and around the globe change. So here's just a quick look at how the BNP has done or would have done over the last 15 years or so versus the actual S&P. The S&P is the darker of the 2 lines. And you can see that the beginning point and the ending point are roughly the same, but clearly the ride to get there was a lot different. The S&P has a lot more volatility. The BNP, because it is so diverse, it really removes a lot of that volatility and makes it a much smoother ride for the company, for the client, and of course, for your anniversary appointments as well. So we'll take a quick look at the rates. In the middle column is our bonus products. You can see the BNP I just talked about that comes in both a 1 and a 2-year design. The 1-year design has a 50% participation rate right now, so it'll return a value and your client gets half of it. No spread, no fee right there, no cap. And the 2-year actually is a little bit better, 75% participation rate right now. So what I like to kind of do is, if you remember, we talked about that option 2 income that had the 200% participation rate. What I like to kind of frame and give you some perspective is if we have a 1-year point-to-point strategy like we do here at the BNP at 50%, if we apply that participation rate, we're basically getting all the growth. We're turning into 100% participation as it relates to income. And again, on the 2-year strategy, that 75 turns into 150. And I'll show you some numerical examples in a moment of how that looks. Now, there is a cost for the rider. It doesn't matter which one you choose, option 1 or 2, it's 1%. Again, I think very competitive given all the different features, the doubler, the ability to earn a lot more growth for the option 2. And again, very quickly here, we'll show you the specs on the product. It's the bonus product is a 12-10 design, and then it's walk away. You can see the issue ages there, 35 to 80. And again, if you're in one of those different states like Florida, there is different versions for you. Now, before I get into these sales pieces, what I would like to try to do here is share with you my internet browser. And I want you, if you have a pen handy, I'd like you to write this down. This is a client-facing website that talks and discusses the BNP Paribas index that we have. It's madindex.bnpparibas.com. And again, if you haven't had a moment to write that down, call the folks on Scott's annuity team at IAMS and they'll get that to you. What I do want to show you though is that, it's funny, as you look at the landscape of indexed options, a lot of these are proprietary and it's very difficult to get information about them. Certainly client-facing information about it. And here what we've done at Athene is provide an index or a website that does just that. It gives you how this thing works. It talks about the performance, how it relates to different asset classes, the different balances. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's go into the index performance side here. And bear with me. Let me just take a moment. And it is not, by the way, password protected. So if you've got, this is just, if you've got a browser, you can get at it and so can your clients. So here we're looking at the performance table. So let's take a quick look at last year. So 2016, you can see that we've got the BNP here in the middle, returning just under 6%. The S&P 500 has returned about 9.5% last year. So again, let's use the numbers that we used on the rates a few moments ago. So if we had the 1-year strategy, if you will, let's call it 6%. Again, that kind of backs into the example I gave you. 50% participation is going to get them about 3%. Again, they're going to double that for income if they choose option 2, and we're stacking that 6 on top of the 8. So again, I'm not going to do all that math for you, but if all you need is 1 or 2 years where we're getting 10 to 12% like we have on this thing, and that income gets a lot more powerful for clients. So again, great way for them to track how their index is doing. It's updated every day based on the prior market's close. So again, as Scott mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, at Athene, we were all about transparency. We don't want to develop an index that we love and then can't tell anyone about it. It just doesn't make sense. So this is one that the clients can track on their own. So now, Scott, very quickly, I'll get into 2 sales pieces, and then if you would, after that, you can take back control, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. So this first piece, actually, Scott mentioned something during his introductory about managed money. And if those of you that are in that marketplace or perhaps run up against it, this is a great piece for clients that have managed portfolios of assets. And what this piece discusses is that by using part of that portfolio to buy an indexed annuity with a rider, how you can not only enhance by what you're earning or what you're receiving each year by almost 50%, you take the guaranteed amount from 0 to almost 2/3 of the portfolio. So I'm not going to get into the numbers here, but just know that this is a great way to talk to somebody that has a managed portfolio of assets that maybe doesn't have an income plan available to them yet. This is a great way to not even take all of the managed money, just a piece of it, enhance the income, and then make a lot more of it guaranteed. So now what I want to share with you is that last piece I mentioned that kind of talks about why would a client choose option 2 over option 1? And the reason that is clearly is time and growth and market data, right? So early on, as I mentioned before, you can see that it's a little small, but if you can see the numbers at the bottom there, this basically shows the likelihood that option 2 would outperform option 1 in any given year. You can see in year 1, option 2 outperforms option 1 in terms of income 76% of the time. Not great, but it still does it the majority of the time. But you can see as you go further down time here, so 2, 3, 4, year 5, 99%, year 6, it's virtually every single scenario. Option 2 would have provided more income to the client than option 1. So that's why I mentioned, if you've got clients that have at least 5 to 6 years ahead of them before they need to access the money, option 2 is the way to go. And then we kind of go through some of the numerical examples for the clients as well, and really how much the index has to perform to really outperform option 1. When you know that in over the last 30 years, the S&P has not returned less than 1% over any 10-year period, and that's all you really need to get to outperform option 1. So pretty compelling pieces. I think, again, at the very least, they help you start that conversation with clients. Great for mailers. And Scott, with that, I'll let you take control back, and I'm happy, as you mentioned, there's a lot of information here over the last 30 minutes, and I'm happy to entertain questions about the portfolio, about Athene, and I'm sure, there might be questions about the marketplace, potentially what's happening here in the next few weeks. So I'll turn it to you.
Hey, thank you, Mac. Great presentation as always. Don't have a real talkative group here. We did have a couple of questions come in, and I will get to those in just 1 second. While we're getting there, if there are any questions, please do feel free to type them in. We do still have time to get those answered. I am going to launch our final polling question of the day, and what I'm going to ask you in this polling question is if you'd like to see contracting information from Athene. If there's anything that you saw today that you think may be relevant in your practice, please click yes. Again, with all of our polling questions, it's not a commitment on your part to start working with Athene, but we will get you out some product information, some licensing information. You can see the commission schedules, get you out the information you need to do a deep dive and see if this truly is a fit for you. So again, if you did see anything that was of interest to you today, just click yes. We'll get that out to you here today or tomorrow. Mac, with that being said, I mentioned we didn't have a real talkative group, but I did have a couple of questions come in, and I'll bet you have no idea what these questions are geared around. That being said, they were all about the Department of Labor ruling, June the 9th, 8424. Can you give us a breakdown on what happens June the 9th and thereafter?
Yeah, I'll do my best, Scott. Listen, that's an important date for everybody on the call. Scott, myself, you listening there in the field as well. And listen, there has been, in my career, and again, it spans over 20 years now, amazingly enough, I've never seen a piece of legislation affect or cause companies and IMOs and advisors to go back and forth so quickly on how their business might be treated. And the reason that I think that has occurred over the last couple of months and even years that, the rule that they've been proposing has been very vague in many instances. It's been specific in some areas, but very vague in a lot of other important ways. So, as we've seen earlier this year, we did get a 60-day delay in the rule. And as we just heard, the delay will not be extended. So we are going to be living in this world June 9th and beyond. The good news, I think, for everybody, company, IMO, and producers included, is that one thing the Department of Labor did when they gave us that initial 60-day delay, they removed annuities out of the BIC exemption, which, as you'll recall, is the one where, you need a financial institution to sign, and there's a lot of litigation risk potentially that you'll be, taking on. They removed them from the BIC exemption and put them in the much less onerous 8424 exemption, which is where I think most insurance companies are leaning. And, based on all of our top competitors, and again, we're a top 2-3 player, everyone seems to be leaning towards the 8424 exemption for their portfolios. So what does that mean for you? Well, again, because they've been removed from the BIC, the prospect of clients suing you the way that they may have been able to before no longer exists. Now, you still have to do the right thing for the client, of course, from a fiduciary perspective. And there's still it has to be a reasonable compensation, so that we do think there's some comp disclosure that will occur across the board as well, across the different companies. The manner in which you do that, I think, will differ from company to company, but what I can try to do is share with you our approach. We've tried to make it as simple as possible, so you don't have to fill out all these new forms and get everything signed and submitted, and make it a lot more difficult to write business with us. We want to do the opposite. We want to make it simple for you. So we are going to provide each and every one of you, available on our website as well, with sort of a worksheet that kind of steps you through what does it mean, what do these exemptions mean, what should I be looking at with my customer, and we're going to add one additional bullet item on our disclosure form that effectively says that it's not a conflict of interest, the sale. And then the one form we are going to have is a form that we have for you, kind of protecting you, but we're not going to require that you submit it to us. Basically, it's a 8424 one-page document that talks about the sale, the merits of the sale, discusses the compensation that you would have earned. And again, that's a part where we're going to ask you to complete that. So the client's going to have, a $100,000 annuity, let's say, and then whatever your commission percentage is, you'll put the percentage in there as it relates to the premium. On that disclosure form, we're very clear on it that we've said that this is not coming out of the client's money in any way. This is a commission that's paid from the company to the advisor. And again, that form is ideally signed by the client and then kept on file in your office. And really, again, that's not a form that Athene is requiring. That's a form that kind of covers you if and when the client comes back and says, well, gee, I wasn't sure. I didn't know what I was getting, all that good stuff. So, again, I think June 9 is an important date because we are all going to have to comply with this exemption, the 8424. But I don't think it's going to be nearly as scary because of that litigation not being there as it would be in potentially a BIC universe. Now, interestingly enough, Acosta, the labor secretary, mentioned one thing or a couple things when he said that we're not going to delay it anymore. He said, even though we're going to enact this thing on June 9th, we're still going to look at it again. So there are still some of our attorneys at Athene that still think that we still may see a changed rule, but likely, it won't come till later this year. The next important milestone date beyond June 9 is January 1st of 2018. And that's when the rule would come into full effect. But I would be shocked if we don't see some more amending of it. I don't think we'll see much going on for a couple of months. I think we got to see what June 9th brings, have all the companies sort of comply with it, and then we'll see where we stand from there. But he did specifically say that, if there's going to be more changes, there'll be more comment periods. And again, my opinion is that we'll likely see a different looking rule at the end of the year. But again, I've predicted so many different ways on this thing, and it's changed in so many other directions that it's going to be tough to, I think, predict it accurately. Again, Scott, I was kind of long-winded there, but I just wanted to make sure I had the detail. And then I guess I'll close by saying that here we are, May 30th, and June 9th is just around the corner. Over the next 2 weeks, you're going to hear a lot of communication from Athene with regards to the new suitability form with that added bullet, the new 8424 form, and we'll have a lot of conference calls to help educate you guys on how these things work and how you should use them. So, Scott, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Hey, thank you, Mac. Appreciate you taking the deep dive into that. I'm going to kind of, as we sign off, try and tie a bow on that. What does this mean to you out there in the field? Mac went through the technical points. What it really means when I'm looking at it from the wholesale end is make sure that you and your practice are paired with an IMO and carriers that are going to be there to support. You heard Max say, look, we're going to have webinars. We've got these forms already developed to protect you. We're ready to roll. make sure you're partnering with carriers that are going to do that for you. And to take it a step further than even the carriers, make sure that your upline, your IMO, whoever you're working with, is prepared for this. You're going to see an invitation from Insurance Agency Marketing Services for a webinar next week where we're going to break down all of the tools that we have for you to be 8424 compliant, all the different processes we have in place to make sure we can support you. And that's going to be hosted by Steve Murray himself. That's how seriously we're taking this. One of our owners and our chief marketing officer wants to be the one out front of it. So make sure that that whoever you're working with is ready to handle this. And if they're not, I'd say look at us, look at IAMS, give us a real shot to earn a piece of your business, at least your qualified business, because we are prepared and we will be ready to help you. And beyond IAMS, look at Athene. I can tell you I've had the pleasure over the last few years to spend quite a bit of time with both Mac and many of the Athene lawyers, and they're on it. I think the lawyers themselves will be very happy when everything's finalized, because that'll mean they'll stop getting text messages from me on a daily basis. So, Max said it's been a long-winded and winding road to get where we are, and it's going to continue to wind for at least the next 6 months. That's a very true statement. But make sure you have positioned yourself to be successful moving forward. And with that, I will probably speak on behalf of Mac here for a second. If there's anything that Mac or his team in the home office, Rob and John, can do to make you feel more comfortable, or anything myself or any of my team here in Omaha can do to make you feel more comfortable and help you to continue to write business moving forward, give us a call. Let us know. We'd love to have that conversation with you. That being said, Mac, anything you'd like to add or say to the group before we sign off?
No. I think you closed it perfectly, Scott. Listen, we're here for the long term, as is IAMS. Give us a call, give them a call, and we're looking forward to working with you. Thanks again.
Hey, Mac, thank you so much for your time. I know it's a busy time over there, so we do appreciate you joining us for an hour. And to everyone that's on the call with us, we know an hour spent with us is an hour where you're not out prospecting and closing business, so we do greatly appreciate your time. That being said, go out and have a great sales day, and I look forward to speaking with each and every one of you in the near future. Thank you, everyone.